Hi, everyone. So I guess through the lens of two different projects, this presentation will explore the idea of designing for difference in two very different contexts. And I guess we're interested in engaging with people, and I guess how social sustainability might feed into this idea of designing for the future. So I'm Amelia Borg, and this is my co-director, Nicholas Braun. We're co-founding directors of Sibling, and we have offices in both Melbourne and Sydney. So yeah, as a practice, we work across a range of public and private typologies. One of the things that we're always interested in is designing spaces for a range of users. This includes both diverse communities as well as people with a wide range of abilities. Our approach is always looking at how we can design spaces that celebrate these differences. So the first project that we'll talk you through is a new learning building for the Wangaratta District Specialist School. The client for the project is the Victorian School Building Authority, so basically the Victorian government. The school is a specialist school, and it caters for students with mild to severe intellectual and physical disability from the age of 5 to 18 years of age. It's located in Wangaratta, not far from the Victoria-New South Wales border, and it is located in Yorta Yorta country. So this is our site, highlighted in red. So it's located in quite a sort of suburban residential area, and it neighbours another school to the north, Upton Park Primary. The existing campus was really in need of some love. A large majority of the existing learning spaces were in relocatable or sort of portable buildings. These are all highlighted here in blue. You can see the majority of campus was relocatable, and there wasn't really any kind of precedent for the school in having a facility that was meeting their needs. They'd really just been sort of making do for such a long time. So yes, as you can see, the campus was really in need of some love. This is the main entry to the building, or to the school. This was essentially the functional brief that we inherited. So I guess what we knew the building had to contain, 6 classrooms, amenity to support those spaces, staff spaces, and then 2 sort of practical activity spaces. But yeah, I guess beyond this, the school didn't really have any clear idea about how the spaces should work. They'd just kind of been making do with such poor conditions for such a long time. They never really had the sort of space to dream about what their ideal space would look like. So we set up this project reference group as part of a very sort of thorough consultation process that we undertook. The group was made up of school leadership, teachers, and specialist staff, so including allied health professionals, occupational and speech therapists, physiotherapists, and social workers. As part of the consultation, we visited lots of other schools, we conducted lots of interviews and had multiple sort of workshops. We eventually came to an understanding that there were these sort of 4 key types of spaces that would be required within the building. So calm and focused spaces. So attention span and the ability to have areas where students could sort of maintain focus kept coming up in discussion. Rooms that could be enclosed and not open onto other spaces was a key thing that kept coming up. Social spaces, so things like, spaces which encouraged interaction. So most of the students attending the school don't go on to any further type of study. So a big part of the focus at the school is about teaching students sort of independent living skills and social skills and life skills. So that was really important. Support spaces, so things like change rooms, amenities, staff, resource, and sort of consulting spaces. And then finally, sensory spaces. So in learning about the special needs of the students, one of the elements that we found sort of super interesting was the range of different sensory processing issues that the students can have. So there's this broad range of responses. So overly sensitive students can respond really easily to stimulation and can find it quite overwhelming. And conversely, undersensitive students often seek out much more stimulation. So they are sort of catering to this large plethora of I guess different responses drove our approach to the design of the building, which I'll go into in more detail soon. So this is just an early basic bubble diagram of the plan, where it's basically 3 classrooms banked around a shared amenity zone. And then this is sort of mirrored and repeated with central zones that contain sort of sensory spaces, staff spaces, and life skill spaces. This is the more developed plan, where you can see these types of those types of spaces then overlaid onto the areas. The 2 groups of classrooms with the shared amenity space in the middle, and then a hoisting system then is able to carry students from classrooms to the amenities. Each classroom has its own contained external breakout space and a variety of sensory spaces throughout the spine, including a sensory garden. So yeah, just talking through the elements in a bit more detail. So the design of the classrooms was in line with trying to make them very calm and focused spaces. The palettes are soft and neutral, and any windows and apertures into and sort of out of the space are controlled to try and limit distraction. These external breakout spaces provide students who are overwhelmed a robust place to go and expend some energy, or to be alone to self-regulate their emotions. And again, they're quite internal to limit distraction. Within the main corridor space, colour is used to distinguish each classroom and help students with wayfinding and understanding where they are within the building. And yeah, as I mentioned before, there are these dedicated spaces in the building that are intended to help with building life skills. This is a communal kitchen space that hosts classes on food preparation and cooking. So yeah, engaging with the senses and sensory design was a huge part of our approach to the design of the building. So sort of in order to start this process, we began to map out the different ways that we can engage with each of the senses in a more sort of spatial way across the building. We gathered a lot of examples across many typologies, as well as within our own history of work, to see how we can better facilitate engaging with the senses in a more spatial way. Having a hypersensitivity to visual stimuli can make the day-to-day extremely difficult. So people with autism can often affect people's perception of depth of field, their tendency to be distracted by clutter. They may have an increased sensitivity to glare or sort of visual fragmentation. So within the building, there are these series of spaces that are dedicated to provide visual stimulation to students who would like to seek that out. There is this dedicated sensory room with a custom tubular light ceiling that displays different patterns. And there is the capacity to project images and have sound within this space. There are also these 2 visual sensory nooks which come off the main corridor space, and they're lined with soft carpet and acoustic material. They have a custom ceiling light installation in each space, as well as a speaker that students can connect their phone to listen to music. There are dedicated tactile walls throughout the building. We've used a range of weird and wonderful tactile materials from different kinds of rubbers, timbers and mattings. And then this was also carried out to the exterior of the building, where we have bands of sort of tactile brickwork as well. Some of the students are non-verbal, so engaging with sound is a type of therapy. So within the sensory room, there's the ability to engage with voice playback and other instruments. The vestibular system, so this might not be one that everyone has heard of, but it's a sensory system which creates the sense of balance or sort of spatial awareness or orientation. So the rubber mounds in the breakout space are intended to help students engage with balance or sort of with their body, trying to sort of balance on uneven ground. And then there are these 2 sort of larger nooks within a corridor space that also engage with spatial awareness. So taste, so again, the communal kitchen was key for this, as well as the inclusion of a vegetable patch, accent kitchen. In terms of smell, the school already uses sort of smell as a type of therapy, but we really thought about this in the planting selection, particularly the sensory garden with where plants with quite strong smell were chosen.
Just moving plan, I'll talk you through the form of the building. So we started with these two sort of mirrored modules, and then the roof splits to allow for high-level light deep into the floor plate. There are then this series of larger pop-ups with large north-facing windows, which again bring light deep into sort of special areas within the centre of the building. The external form is broken down to allow for the building to read almost as more of a collection or village of buildings to assist with legibility. And then materially, we have used sort of patchwork bricks and textures to bring that idea of tactility onto the skin of the building. This view shows the sort of scale of the large pop-ups, and then a sort of playful and undulating fence. The robust breakout spaces that then provide these spaces for self-regulation. Yeah, this is just a view through the main sort of soft timber and textural corridor. And yeah, I guess off the back of this project, we've recently been awarded a research grant to sort of further our interest in sensory design. But yeah, as part of the research, we've conducted a post-occupancy survey of the project, which was great. Much of the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive, which has been amazing. And I guess for us, the most striking thing is that the teachers have noticed a sort of marked decline in the number of outbursts or sort of, upset students. So yeah, to know that the building was having such a positive impact on the students is all we could really ask for. So yeah, now Nick will talk you through another project that engages with the diverse users in a very different way.
I'll talk you guys through the Darebin Intercultural Centre today. So this is the project that we had the privilege of working on with the City of Darebin. The manifesto of the council at the time in terms of this project was eliminating discrimination within society within all of its forms. So this is a very bold ambition for a project and something that we wanted to work through and see the role that architecture can play in with such an ambition. So I guess when thinking about the project, it was important to understand the community and the context in which we were working. So Darebin has a growing population, expected to reach 200,000 by 2030. The main industry is education, but most interestingly is the cultural and linguistic diversity within the council. So there are 148 languages spoken within the council, and Italian, Greek, Mandarin, Arabic and Vietnamese communities all have a much higher proportion than other Victorian councils. So on top of this, cultural and linguistic diversity, we also had another range of, civic identities and user groups to work with. So First Nations community, LGBTQI, long-term unemployed, refugees and asylum seekers, neurodiversity and people with disabilities. So it was very multifaceted in terms of the user groups that we had to be thinking about. A massive part of this project was a co-design process that occurred that included Sibling Architecture, Charles Solomon, an Indigenous landscape designer, Darebin Council, and then a community reference group of 8 culturally and linguistically diverse community members, as well as the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung Cultural Heritage Trust. We went through 5 rounds of consultation, this really helped steer the project direction. So many deep conversations and lots of listening was had all during COVID, as you can see here. And we asked people what interculturalism was to them and what were the barriers that were beginning to stop interculturalism from happening in society. So together we formed the guiding principles of the project, so they were be inclusive while culturally dynamic, unify the spaces between cultures, create transformative spaces, and enable light and transparency. So importantly, this wasn't intended to be a multicultural centre. It was really about the space between the cultures and the ability for people to learn from one another that was really important to this project. So we wanted to strengthen these connections between people that they can learn from one another. And really, the driving idea behind it was creating this idea of culturally agnostic space. So not preferencing any one culture over another and creating a space where everyone can come together. The site's located on a prominent corner in Preston, in the northern suburb of Melbourne. It's also located next to another very important intercultural space, which is the Preston Market. The Preston Market is a hive of intercultural activity. sadly, at risk of being lost. I think it's to be saved again, but there's a lot of back and forth with this, but it's obviously a community asset that everyone really loves, and the market effectively stretches onto High Street, which sits opposite the site that we have. So the site for the project, this is the heritage frontage on High Street. We have a stolen generation marker, a war memorial, and a beautiful eucalypt garden, all within the public realm here. It's located on the ground floor in the corner space of the Civic Centre. It was built in 1985. Effectively, there was a front door here that no longer is used, and so effectively the Intercultural Centre becomes Council's front door, which is a bold ambition. However, there was a problem with this building, with many of the community members and the consultation process saying that the building felt culturally unsafe, and it felt very colonial in its manifestation. So how do we get an intercultural centre to be within a centre that, I guess, presents like this to the street? It was also heritage listed, so there was very little we could do externally. So the real opportunity lay within the interiors. You can see here the council did a great job of adding 80s vinyl and carpet throughout the centre, so it's pretty inspiring stuff to inherit, and I guess it created this opportunity for the interior. There were some heritage items within the space, including the tessellated tiles and archways. There was also a whole lot of faux heritage that was added over time, so we were able to kind of remove that as well and start to strip away at the building. So I guess when thinking about the internal opportunities, we had to understand what the different communities would be doing within the space, and this was very diverse, so dance classes, cultural markets, film events, and one of my favourite was how to prepare a tax return within Australia, so a real range of different activities that we had to think about, so flexibility was really key to the process. So you can see here, this is what we call the cultural blueprint or master plan, and you can start to see the curvaceous forms that pull in and out of the building, and that really was this gesture to try and draw the community in and draw the centre back out into the public realm. Look, this is the public realm, which is a later stage of the project, and really this was all about kind of celebrating ceremony within Wurundjeri culture and seasonality as well. So hopefully this is a later stage of the project that happens, but the initial gesture that we worked on was the interior of the space. So you can see the sort of two circles in the centre of the plan act as these welcoming tables. We have 3 intercultural spaces off to the right that offer this flexibility, the staff and co-working space over to the left, and then the Shire Hall at the top, which could expand the space to become for bigger events and venues. So I guess we're thinking about this idea of interculturalism and being culturally agnostic. I guess this idea of a material tapestry really came to the fore. The ability to, I guess, use existing materials within the space, overlaying that with new materials and creating, I guess, this infrastructure and this palette of materiality that really acts as a metaphor for diversity within the space. This material tapestry then makes way for what we call this, I guess, spatial tapestry, or these social infrastructures that begin to be overlaid in the space and allow the people to use it in a multitude of different ways. You can see on the left, to kind of achieve this flexibility, we had to get quite surgical and decompartmentalise the space to kind of make it open and free-flowing. And you can begin to see here those social infrastructures, which are made up of, I guess, 3 or 4 different spaces that can use operable walls and curtain systems to create this level of user agency, to break down the spaces into smaller spaces, but also open it up to be one larger space. So as you enter the intercultural sector off High Street, there's new signage, which is also a deliberate change from the council signage, so a new kind of announcement that something new is here. And the beginnings of that, I guess, master plan for the external begin to take place here, and spaces for ceremony begin to be introduced. As you can see here, smoking ceremonies occurring within the public realm within the space. As you move into the front doors, this material tapestry really begins to unfold. The checkerboard tiles at the rear and the vaulted ceiling were all found during the demolition process, and so again, using what was there was really important to start to weave into the project as well. The Shire Hall beyond, which you would see in that other image, also starts to hold larger cultural events within it when the centre needs to kind of expand to that. As you enter, you have these two welcome tables, I guess, that are breaking down that barrier between, I guess, a reception and a welcome, so creating something much more social and friendly, and a digital screen that displays the welcome in 148 languages, as well as giving people ideas of what will be happening within the centre on the day. Another really important key design idea was this idea of purge, so removing that faux heritage detail that we had previously seen, and starting to reveal the bricks that were made from country. So this was a really important act of decolonising the interior space that was really supported through that consultational process as well, which you can begin to see in this image here. And I guess this gesture, another gesture that came onto with this was naming several of the spaces in Wurundjeri language, and they were Gundu, Gillan, Gundu, Willam, one people, one place, Willan, Nunyan, our place, and Jarin or Gundu, Gather as one. You can see here the space where the staff work, and it's also a co-working space for everyone. So there's this kind of idea of barriers again completely broken down, and everyone is sort of working within the same place, and it's very free-flowing. It acts as a library space where people could come in and, I guess, gather resources and meet with other people within the spaces, and lots of different social infrastructures are dotted throughout. To allow for different events, and also framing the city beyond. Reflective materials were also used throughout, and importantly to kind of, I guess, dissipate division, and that was a really important idea, but more importantly it was really used as a way to reflect the community back onto itself and remind themselves of the importance of them being within the space and inhabiting the spaces, which you can begin to see here in different events. There's the corner space acts as I guess a cultural stage, which can support music events, film, dance, and a variety of different events. And then you can begin to see here that kind of breaking down of the spaces with the curtains, which just starts to, again, provide that user agency to the space so people can really transform it how they wish to. And bold colour and this kind of textural materiality was a really important way to, I guess, create a civic identity to the space that people could recognise. And this was really, I guess, allows, I guess, a range of different events to occur, but yeah, it cements this idea of identity within the space and the way that people use it, and they become connected with the site and the place. And you can start to see that in the social media that the council begins to use to, I guess, demonstrate their messages back to the community, so the space becomes a backdrop for those events and, I guess, messages to be portrayed. And so, I guess, sort of to finish up, can architecture eliminate discrimination within a society? No, I don't think it can necessarily, but what it can do is provide a space that people can come, a culturally safe space where people can come and learn from one another, and really that is the kind of grand gesture of this project here. So thank you.